Hey everyone, welcome to Unique Ways with Thomas Gerard, an audio podcast. Got a really great guest on today. He's an award-winning lettering artist and type designer. His work ranges from custom brand marks to type design, packaging projects, book covers, and anything that requires beautifully crafted bespoke lettering. Please join me in welcoming Dan Forster. Welcome.
Hey Thomas, thanks for inviting me on. It's great to be here.
Ready for 20 questions?
Yep, let's do it.
Okay, question one. Tell me a little bit more about yourself. What do you do?
Well, you just described it pretty well, actually. Yeah, so I'm an independent lettering artist and type designer. So I work on logos for brands, so custom logos where the type is drawn from scratch as opposed to using typefaces. And these projects are usually through design agencies or branding agencies. I also do quite a lot of what you might call illustrative lettering as well. So things that are highly decorative and highly flourished sometimes. And one thing I'm sort of moving into doing more of now is typeface design as well, so fonts. So yeah, anything and everything to do with type and lettering. So that's what I do. I'm based in a place called Leeds, which is the north of England in the UK.
Great. And just a note for our audience, if you guys are interested in other lettering episodes, check out the episode with Jessica Hish. It was a very popular episode. So question two, what's a key piece of knowledge that makes you different?
Ooh, what makes me different? Well, I guess don't know, everyone's I suppose a product of our upbringing and our backgrounds. So I guess everybody's unique, but yeah, it's hard to say. But I think there's a couple of things that I would sort of say that have shaped who I am, I suppose. So one is that I was lucky to grow up with a creative dad. So my dad, Tony Forster, he was a lettering artist and a calligrapher as well. It's funny because it wasn't until much later that I actually moved into doing lettering myself until after he passed away. But yeah, I think just growing up around my dad really sort of shaped who I was, and I used to spend a lot of time in his studio as a kid, and it was full of all this like really inspiring material, like design books, and there was like metal signs on the walls, and I used to spend a lot of time in there, and I was always pestering him to draw pictures for me. But also the house as well was just full of interesting art and prints and things on the walls. So, it was fun, I guess a fun environment to grow up in. So I think that has probably led me down this path of pursuing a creative career, I guess. Um, but another thing is when I was young as well, I used to swim as a competitive swimmer. And I think what something that comes with that, because this was something I did for about 10 years from the age of I think 9 or 10 until my late teens, early 20s. And so I spent a lot of time in the pool training hard, and swimming's one of those sports that sort of requires a lot of discipline, and there's a lot of hard work as opposed to what you actually get back from it, in terms of the results. So I think I learned a lot about discipline and the fact that, or I understood at an early age, you work hard for something, and that can lead to results.
Great. And number three, why this of all things? Why do you do what you do?
Yeah, that's a good one as well. Well, I suppose it's funny where we all end up, because I would say it's not always the result of a plan, is it? So and it's certainly the case with me. So becoming a lettering artist wasn't my plan at all. I actually spent the first 15 years of my career working in graphic design. But it wasn't until after my dad passed away that and I went through this process of having to clear out his studio, that I just got so inspired by all this work that I was finding, because I'd sort of grown up around it, and I thought I'd seen his work, or I thought I knew his work, but there was just so much more of it that was just buried in his studio. I never got to see until I went through this process of organizing and tidying up his studio, and what I found in there just absolutely blew me away. And it was some point during that process, and the process itself took me about 8 years of just, going backwards and forwards from here to my mum's place to try and organize his studio. And it was some time during that process that I got inspired to try lettering myself, so I, picked up some of these calligraphy pens and I was trying it out. And it was something that he tried to get me to do at an early age, but I just got so frustrated I'd given up quickly. But this time, like I say, I was just so inspired. I was like, oh, I really want to try and see if I can get good at this. So I just practiced and, just through persistence, that's how I actually started getting into lettering. And over time I shared a little bit of this work online on social media, and then over a bit more time started gaining one or two commercial projects. And then I got to a point and I thought, well, maybe I can turn this into a full-time thing. Maybe I could become a lettering artist. And I was sort of slowly falling in love with letters and falling in love with lettering and doing this. And whereas with graphic design, which I'd done previously, I enjoyed it, but I always felt like there was something missing. And then once I started lettering again, I think it was really the craft aspect of it that just drew me in and got me hooked, and made me want to continue and pursue this. So yeah, that's kind of how I ended up, I suppose, getting into lettering. Um, but yeah, the why of it, I don't know. I suppose, yeah, that's a whole other question. It's something I'm still trying to figure out. And I did read that book by, is it Simon Sinek, about start with why and trying to identify what your why is. And it's a really difficult thing, but you always kind of think, well, I do it because I love it, but obviously there's maybe something more behind it. But I don't know. I'm still trying to figure that out. I think it might be something to do with maybe like making a contribution, or passing on inspiration to somebody else, like the fact that my dad inspired me or his work inspired me to do what I do. Maybe there's something in that, like passing the baton perhaps. Inspiring people to find something that they love. um yeah, I don't know, maybe there's maybe there's something in there, but yeah, the why is always a really tough question.
Great. So some people struggle with number four, but the question is, what does your future look like?
Yeah. Um, well, I'm not really sure. Pretty scary with all this AI stuff flying around. We never know what's going to happen, what's going to impact us. But I mean, yeah, and what I would hope for, I suppose, is to stay healthy, to continue being able to do what I'm doing, to keep pushing myself. Um, there's other things that I would like to get into more to do with lettering. So I mentioned typeface design. That's something I'd like to pursue more. 3D design, again, is something I'd like to learn more about, just to try things out. Yeah, just keep on doing what I'm doing, and yeah, engaging with the industry. I actually just came back from Birmingham Design Festival a couple of weeks ago, where I was a speaker, and it was just such a great experience going to that speaking, but also really kind of meeting other creatives and engaging with the industry more. And yeah, that's something I'd like to do more of in the future as well. Uh, yeah, travel, another thing. I've always been inspired by travel, so hopefully I can continue to do that as well. But yeah, I mean, who knows? Who knows what's around the corner? But those are the things that I aspire to and hope to continue to do.
Great. So number five was is unique to this show. The question is, let's talk about location. How does the notion of place play into what you do?
Yeah, it's definitely important, I think. So well, I'm originally from Manchester, which is in the north of England as well, but I moved to Leeds. Well, I went to Sheffield University, another city in the north, and then got a job and moved to Leeds, and I've been in Leeds ever since. And I think what I love about Leeds and where we live now is it's a small town called Horsforth. So it is sort of northwest of Leeds. Um, and it's about 12 minutes on the train into the city. So we've got the city aspect. But then where Horsforth is, it's quite sort of, I would say, semi-rural. So there's a lot of green spaces. There's lots of hills with good views. But also, if we drive out in away from the city in the other direction, then it's not long before we get into the Yorkshire Dales. It's big open countryside, and so it's a real mix of, a nice balance, I suppose, of the city, but also being outdoors, which is something I always find inspiring, and fresh air, just being able to go and walk and hike and do these things. And yeah, I've always loved traveling around as well. I think place is or working in different places can help to just kind of well, just give you fresh perspectives on things and help you to maybe approach your work in a different way, or if you're working in a different environment, it can be inspiring or motivating in different ways. And yeah, I personally find that it helps, but yeah, I think places inspiring for sure. Definitely exposes you to new things, the more new places you can see and experience. Yeah.
Great. So if you had to start from the beginning, what advice would you give your former younger self?
I don't think I'd change anything, to be honest. Because I just love what I'm doing now. And uh yeah, who knows? Maybe I'd tell myself to invest in Apple or something like that. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe, well, there was one time where my dad tried to get me to do calligraphy when I was a kid, and I just got so frustrated with it. I made the fatal mistake of comparing myself to his work, and just gave up straight away. And so maybe I'd say, well, just stick at it, and just, you're never going to be able to do it, right out of the gate. It's something that requires time and persistence. So, stick at it, and yeah, try not to compare yourself to your dad, who'd been doing it for, I think, 30 years at that point. So yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Great. And what's a day in your life like?
A day in my life. So yeah, I get up about 7:30, something like that. The first thing I do every day though is I shower and breakfast, and then I head out for a walk. I have to get out of the house. Because obviously I work for myself, so spend a lot of time by myself, working from my home studio here. So yeah, I need to get out of the house. I go for a walk for 30 minutes, sometimes longer. Like I said, there's quite a lot of open spaces here, so it's really nice to get up on the hills and get some fresh air. And then the other thing that I do every day on the way back is I go to the coffee shop. And there's a really great coffee shop down the road here, opened a few years ago, and there's just been a real sense of community that has seemed to have appeared around this place, and it's just really great to meet all these kind of new people there. So yeah, I always go there and then come back and start work around 9:30, 10 o'clock, something like that, and then break for lunch, usually half an hour to an hour. Sometimes I work through, and then I try not to work beyond 6 o'clock, and then just spend some time in the evenings with my partner, watch TV. Um, Exercise features on some days as well. I've got a big background in swimming, like I mentioned, so some days I'll swim as well. I used to do a lot of Pilates, and I'm trying to get back into doing more of that kind of thing, just to stay active and stay fit, I suppose. And I think that helps me to, well, it's kind of meditative, isn't it? It sort of helps me to get in the right zone or space for work, I guess. And then, yeah, I try not to go to bed too late. I read a book on the importance of sleep recently, which was fascinating. So yeah, bed around 10 o'clock if I can do. So yeah.
Great. And eight is around lifelong learning. It's a popular topic. How do you stay up to date?
Well, yeah, I watch the news when I can. And obviously I read the news as well. Obviously, the internet is a huge source of news and learning, and YouTube as well. I actually really love, trying to learn new things. things to do with lettering, but also anything to do with art and craft, really. I read quite a lot of books, or I started reading more lately. I got a Kindle, and just like reading about other topics as well. Been reading a lot about health, like I just said. I read a book on sleep, read a book on breathing, which sounds like the most boring thing in the world, but was actually fascinating. And I read a book called The Comfort Crisis recently as well by a guy called Michael Easter, I think it was. That was fascinating, just talking about things like, well, I suppose the benefits of trying to do things that are a bit outside of our comfort zone, and what can happen when we get a little bit too comfortable, we get stuck in a rut, and yeah, fascinating read. I definitely recommend that. So yeah, lots of sources of learning, and I guess just social situations as well. Talking to people, like I mentioned at the coffee shop. People from outside of the design community, and getting interesting and different perspectives on things in life and work. So yeah.
Great. And nine, tools. Can you talk about your use of digital and analog tools?
Yeah, so I work with both of those. And yeah, I mean, calligraphy was such an important part of learning to get back into lettering. I learned so much from understanding the pen and the sort of shapes that different pens and different nibs would make on the paper, and sort of how that then translates into lettering itself. And because obviously calligraphy is writing, lettering is drawing. So um, it was all about drawing the letters for me. And yeah, I'd say I'm still not a great calligrapher, but the point for me was to see what I could learn from calligraphy as opposed to actually trying to become a calligrapher. Um, yeah. So, and then digitally, I would say most of the client projects anyway that I work on these days actually start on the iPad, just really for brevity, because it's much faster to work on the iPad as opposed to pencil and paper, and then you've got to do things like scanning and all that stuff. So I think working on the iPad really helps, because I can just like translate that directly into well, what I would do, I would move it onto the desktop computer and then trace the drawings in Illustrator usually, and then move perhaps into Photoshop if there was some texture or depth required with the lettering work. But yeah, so I guess it's a mixture of both analog and digital, but it's certainly more, or leaning more towards being digital these days for sure. But yeah, I guess having said that, there are times when I do go back to the pen. If I'm struggling with a particular shape of a curve or a letter form, and I need to try and figure out, well, actually, what would the pen do in this situation? So I'd go back and use the pens again, and then that would sort of help to give me the answers that I need. So yeah, I guess never forget the pen. Anything to do with type and lettering, it's all derived from the pen. So yeah, it's super important. But then I guess there's other software as well. So I've been trying to use the Glyphs app for typeface design, which I said, it's something I'm trying to get more into. 3D software is something I'd like to try and learn more about as well. It's just the same old thing. It's just time, isn't it? Trying to find the time to do these things. And then also, obviously, there's AI as well now. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of AI, but I think it's important to try and keep up to date and follow what's going on and try and understand it by using it. So yeah, I've been trying to get into that a little bit as well. But yeah, I don't know if I would really want to use that for my work. I mean, the reason I do what I do is because I love doing it. I love drawing. I love making the work. So I don't really want to have an AI to make it for me. It's something I want to do myself. But like I said, I think it's important to keep up. So yeah, that's what I'm trying to do.
Great. And halfway number 10, work-life balance. How do you deal with it?
Um, well, yeah, like I said, I always start the day in the same way, try and get out of the house and get some fresh air, see my friends at the coffee shop, and I try really hard not to break that routine. I just feel it's something that really sets me up well for the day, and then I can come back and just get straight into my work. If there's times when I get up and then I have to get straight into work, there's I don't know, it's just I feel like I've missed something's missing. I can still get on and work fine, but I just think I just feel that I need that routine at the start of the day, the fresh air, the exercise just really helps to get me set up. So yeah, I always try and finish around 6 o'clock if I can. Sometimes it's a bit later, sometimes it's 7, but I just try to be as efficient as I can be through the day, in the time that I am working. And yeah, just try and think about what's healthy as well, what's good for me, what's going to help me to keep doing this thing that I love for as long as I can do. And, you've got to think about your health and stay healthy. And yeah, there was a time a couple of years ago when I was working too hard and I got chronic eye strain. And yeah, I had to have my prescription changed in my glasses. And then there was another time when I got some kind of, I'm not sure if it was carpal tunnel syndrome or repetitive strain injury in my hand. And yeah, so, as we get older, these things happen. So I think you've just got to think about trying to pace yourself, I suppose. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. It's a marathon. And yeah, um, that's how I think about it and approach it anyway, I guess. Yeah. But I am always thinking about work. It's hard to switch off. Even on holidays, I'll take my iPad and I'll sketch on the beach. But I guess that's it's still fun for me doing that. It doesn't feel like work. So yeah, as long as I'm not, drawing into the evening or anything when I'm on holiday, that's not good.
Great. So number 11, if you weren't doing what you do now, what would you be doing?
Right. Yeah, yeah, I suppose, I guess if my dad hadn't have passed away and I hadn't have gone through this process of clearing out his studio, who knows if I would have even ended up getting into lettering at all. Who knows? I don't know. But like I said before, that I was doing graphic design, so it might be that it would have still been that. Um, and the other thing I used to do, coming from the swimming background as well, during my graphic design days, that like I said, I enjoyed it, but I didn't love it. But one thing I did love was, I used to surf a lot, and we used to spend a lot of holidays like traveling around, going to sort of surfy destinations. And there's a place called Scarborough, about 2 hours drive from here, at the coast, and I used to go over there and surf quite a lot. So yeah, maybe and maybe that's something I'd tell my younger self. The question from earlier. Start surfing a bit earlier. So
Hmm.
I don't know. Maybe I'll be doing that. But I would probably be a graphic designer or doing something creative. Drawing was one of the things that I loved from an early age at school. That was one of the main things I was good at. I wasn't too good sort of academically in other areas, but drawing and art was always my thing. So I guess, yeah, something in that sort of sphere, I guess. Yeah.
Great. And what would you not like to do with your career?
Well, I'd not like to stop. I want to keep going as long as I can. In many ways, I feel like I'm just getting started. I think it's only been about, what has it been now, 12 years since I started doing the lettering work. So it's been a while, I guess, but there's so many things I want to try. I just want to keep going, and I don't want to stop. But I'm not sure if that's what you meant, but I guess the other thing I would say, if it's something that a different kind of job that I didn't want to do, I'd probably say working in an office environment, somewhere that was maybe like a corporate place where I had to wear a suit, and it was a strict 9 to 5. And yeah, I don't think I'd handle that environment very well.
Great. And do you have a favorite word, quote, or sentence?
Um, yeah. Well, there's a few. I love quotes. There's so many good ones. One thing that always comes to mind, when I think about quotes. So there was a friend of my dad's, and his father. he had cancer and he didn't have long left, and my dad was speaking with him, and he asked my dad to design his headstone for his grave. And I mean, this sounds a bit bleak, but um, there was a quote that went onto his headstone, and it just said, "Your only possession is time." And that's something that's always really, it's always stayed with me. And like I say, it's maybe could be a bit bleak, but really, I kind of see that as a sort of a motivator. You know, it's something that I think about a lot, and we've all of us, we've only got a certain amount of time, so we just need to get busy doing what we really want to do. And yeah, so I think about that a lot, the finite amount of time that we all have. Um, the other one was there's a quote by Henry Ford, I think it was, and it was um, whether you believe you can do a thing or not, you are right. So it's kind of about mindset, and it's about attitude, and approaching something that you want to do with the right attitude. I always quite like that. Maybe you'll surprise yourself. Maybe if you try it, you can do it. So yeah, I always quite like that as well.
Great. And how about a least favorite word, quote, or sentence?
Um, I'm not a fan of done is better than perfect,
Hmm.
which is something you hear quite a lot. And I mean, I think sometimes it can be true, because we all have clients, and the clients come with deadlines and budgets and things. So, things have to get done. But I think what I don't like about it is that it sort of implies that the goal should always be just to finish, and that'll do sort of thing, as opposed to trying to keep striving to improve something and make it better. So, so I think the opposite is true sometimes. You definitely try and strive for perfection where you can, and keep pushing yourself to make your work better. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's true sometimes, like I say, there's deadlines and things, but I, yeah, I definitely think keep pushing yourself as well, yeah, trying to strive for something better, to keep improving. Um, I was going to say something else as well. Oh yeah, I think the word talent um, can often be thrown around too much. We say, oh, he's talented, she's talented. And, I think that's something that can be a little bit off-putting for people who are just getting started, students or graduates, because the word talent, it sort of implies that people are good at something from day one. So, if you're a student, you may be looking at somebody's work and thinking, I could never be that good, I could never attain that level. But, what you're not seeing is the fact that behind what looks like talent is probably more often down to a lot of hard work and unwavering dedication to trying to be good at something, and having a sort of willingness to suffer for your art, to try and improve, and and keep going to get to a result. So I think, for students, like, don't be put off when you see somebody's work and you just think, oh, I could never get that far. It's not necessarily talent, it's down to hard work. So um, I think it's really important for students and youngsters to understand that, and just be persistent. And if you want to do something, just strive for it. Um, yeah.
Great. And you're choosing one word to describe yourself. What word would you choose?
Well, I think it's probably better coming from somebody else, but to describe me, I don't know. Well, I'd say motivated. I'm definitely a motivated person. When I get something in my head that I want to do in terms of my work, at least, then yeah, I'm off. I've got a goal, and I want to try and do it, and I'll do anything I can to do that. So, um, yeah, but again, it's I'm lucky that I found something I love doing. So, um, yeah, I'm just naturally motivated to do it. So yeah, I think motivations are probably a good word. And again, that might come from the swimming background as well, and having a goal, perhaps. Yeah.
Great. And what keeps you up at night?
Foxes. So where I live, there's a bit of land out at the back, and during the evening, sort of under the trees, there's yeah, the foxes come out sometimes. Then they make some strange noises, I've got to say. But yeah, I don't think that's what you meant though. But yeah, I don't worry about much. There's not a lot that keeps me up at night, to be honest. I sleep pretty well, but I mean, sometimes things like the admin side of my job is something that well, it's a necessary evil, and if I've got an admin backlog, too much stuff to do on that front, then I can maybe get a bit stressed about that. But yeah, I don't worry about you know politics or politicians or any of that stuff. I mean, well, to a degree, but it's not something that is in my control. So it doesn't really keep me up at night. Yeah.
Great. And final stretch here. What's a dream you're chasing?
Um, I don't know. I'd say I feel really lucky that the dream sort of arrived to me. I love what I do, and I'm super grateful for being in this position. So I think, yeah, just to keep doing what I love, and like I said earlier, just to be healthy and into my, as I age, and just be able to continue doing what I love. Um, Actually, there is one thing though. One thing I would love to do is to create a book of my dad's work at some point, because there's just so much of it, and it's so inspiring to me still. And or I did set up an Instagram account to share some of his work. Um, I think it's Tony Forster _ lettering on Instagram. So there's a bit of his work there, but yeah, I just think a book would be an incredible thing to do to give his sort of his work and his legacy some permanence in the world outside of it existing just in boxes like it does at the moment, I guess.
Great. And you kind of just answered this, but what inspires you?
Oh yeah, I mean, well, yeah, my dad's work for sure inspires me, but yeah, there's so many things, and they're not always design related as well. People, I suppose, more than anything, really inspire me, and people from all kinds of walks of life. Um, yeah, so just last Saturday, so I swim every Saturday, and there's a lady at the pool who works on reception, and she's a double amputee. She's lost both legs at some point. I'm not sure of her story, but I just found out that she had swam the English Channel twice,
Mm.
from Dover to Calais, and I just think things like that just really inspire me. People who they don't let setbacks get in their way, and they get on with life. I was just thinking about there's a surfer called Bethany Hamilton. So you may have heard of her. She's quite famous, but she lost her arm to a shark attack when she was like 11 or something. She was like really young. But yeah, obviously, that was a traumatic thing for her and her family. But I think it was only about a couple of months later she was back in the water and surfing again and competing again. And things like that really inspire me. And like I said, people who can like bounce back and react positively to something bad that has happened is always really inspiring. But also people who sort of set like audacious goals, and then they'll dedicate their lives to chasing after it. So I saw that documentary about, is it Alex Honnold, who climbed up Yosemite without a rope? Just absolutely crazy. But he kind of set his mind to something, and then he was like, "I'm going to do this," and he went and did it. I mean, it's an insane thing, really. But yeah, I find things like that I find inspiring. Swimming as well. I mean, like I said, that's a big background for me. But just thinking about Michael Phelps, And I think it was in 2008 when he set that goal to to better Mark Spitz's record of 7 golds at a single championships. And so he planned it, he announced it, and he committed to it, and he did it. And it's yeah. So I think just people in general, above anything else, is the probably the thing that inspires me the most. But of course, there's other things like traveling and seeing new places and cultures, and uh, obviously there's the wandering around the cities. You see the typography everywhere, and that's a huge inspiration for me. But just being outdoors generally, hiking and music's big inspiration. Yeah, so many things to name.
Great. And last couple here, any advice you'd like to share?
Yeah, yeah. I just think if you really want to do something, just go after it with everything you've got, and be patient and persistent. Work hard for it. Um, Obviously, I guess this is advice for the youngsters, but you just got to accept that you will get rejected at some point. Everybody does, and you've just got to accept that and just get on. Don't be put off. Was it J.K. Rowling who was rejected? I don't know how many times, but like so many times before as one of the publishers picked up on the Harry Potter books. So yeah, for me, it's just I guess the big thing is just being persistent and being patient and sticking at it. I think that's probably best advice I could offer. Yeah.
Great. And finally, number 20, how can our listeners keep tabs on you? What's our call to action?
So my Instagram handle is at Dan Forster, and Forster spelled Forster. And yeah, I think it's pretty much the same everywhere. Same on LinkedIn. Those are the two platforms I'm most active on. My website is danforster.com. Yeah, there's a few other social media platforms springing up. I'm not really on Twitter or Threads too much. But yeah, those are the main places you can find me. Yeah.
Okay, well, thanks so much for joining today. Really trying to stretch out the typography episodes on the show, and adding you to this is super great. So thank you so much.
Cool. Yeah, thanks for having me, Thomas. Yeah, it's really nice speaking to you.